For
It
sure.
is.
Hands down.
But what do you tell someone who is Gen Z to help them understand what's going on? What do you think, how do you rework their reality in a way that they can understand their, like, whether or not the situation's fair or whether or not the situation is right? Like, this is the situation you're in,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and like, how do you move out of that situation?
Yeah, I think I mean, so there's several factors that you would have to hit on. First off, there's the whole economy side, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the social structures that we
Mm-hmm.
have going on.
Your mic is kind of in your face.
Oh, and social structures, thanks. And stuff that we have going on. And then there's the climate. I mean, there's so you would have to break down all of these
Mm-hmm.
factors. Each one of these are individual conversations, right?
Yeah.
So I think I think with any good generation, you have to you there is wisdom imparted to you from your parents even when you don't want to hear it.
Mm-hmm.
There's wisdom imparted to you from your grandparents even when you don't want to hear it,
Yeah.
right? So I think listening to some of these, at least some of these lessons,
Mm-hmm.
right? That these older generations have been through and gone through and saying, hey, we screwed this up. You
Mm-hmm.
know, I get that. I'm sorry. We have screwed this up. This is not how y'all want to do things anymore.
Yeah.
We're passing the torch to you. And that falls on us, too. There's this,
Yeah.
us and this older generation have zero desire to pass the torch to what they feel like is a bunch of sniveling, lazy idiots.
Right.
Right? Which is, I mean, this is the problem with talking about generations.
Mm-hmm.
Does that exist in Gen Z? Absolutely,
Yeah.
1,000%. Talking in generalizations is
Mm-hmm.
tough.
Yeah.
I don't think that this entire generation is bad. They have a bunch of great ideas.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next step is the reverse. It's actually finding your voice and standing up for your voice, and
Right.
standing up for what you believe in, and saying, "Hey, this is what is important to us." And I think they're doing it. I think honestly they do a pretty good job of that. It's
They
the
do.
listening part that they have a hard time with.
And I think a lot. I think one thing I see that is a huge. That's not really a problem, but like narrowing your focus on what you can directly affect versus focus on things you have no control over. Okay.
Yeah, sure.
Like yeah, you're right. This generation and some of our generation have really found a voice and have learned how to talk really loud. But a lot of times it's about things that you don't have control over. And
Yeah.
and when you narrow down your focus to actionable things, you'd be surprised how much of a difference you can actually make versus just talking.
Yeah. So I'm a firm believer. Just because you scream it louder doesn't make it more true.
Mm-hmm.
And I do feel like this generation, some Gen Z, sometimes that's their problem. They seem to just scream louder instead of actually trying to break it down. And this is everybody's problem right now. Nobody, if just a tad bit of empathy,
Yeah.
right? Gen Z to Gen X, and
Mm-hmm.
Gen X to Gen Z, and millennials in between. There is just a time where you have to sit down, listen to each other. And I mean, actually listen, which people don't
Yeah.
do anymore. Sit down, listen to each other, and have an honest, open conversation without pointing fingers and belittling. And this is politics, this is religion, this is anything in life. People have to stop shouting at each other and getting so angry over stuff.
Yep.
I think if people would just sit down and talk to their neighbor, and neighbor is just a euphemism for anybody, right? I'm
Right.
just saying anybody out there. If you would just sit down and talk to your neighbor and try to understand and hear them out,
Mm-hmm.
I think people would understand that we have way more in common than what we think. And I think Gen Z and Gen X have way more in common than they think.
I think so too.
There was a time, dude, Gen X that was from the baby boomers. They were handed there was they were the hippies, man.
Yeah.
They were the ones trying to go out and change and Vietnam War protesting, Vietnam War and all that kind of stuff, and the military industrial complex. And so I think they would find that they have more in common than they think. I think my disconnect for me personally is some of the issues that Gen Z decides to find important and try to hold up. Social issues are really important to them.
Right.
I guess they feel they can't control the economic situation, so maybe that's what they're doing. They're
Maybe
choosing
so,
social
yeah.
situations. So where does that leave us, right? So if you're a Gen Zer and you're so angry because you think there's this massive disconnect between you and the X, and that is a two-way street, is it possible? I mean, is this generation doomed? They are who they are. This is just who they are.
Yeah.
Do you think that it is already, as a whole, this generation is what it is?
No, I don't. And I think I've seen it even with myself. And like who I was whenever I was 20 is way different than who I am now.
Well, what is the average Gen Zer? What let's see, they were born from I've already forgot. Dude,
Yeah, it was 97 to 2013.
So 97 to 2013. Okay.
Yeah.
So they're in that, the youngest, so the bell curve is 18?
Everything below 27 is.
So you think the average Gen Zer is 18, 19?
I would probably say so. I think that's about right.
18 to 20.
Yeah, 18 to 20.
Voting age.
And I think just in general, as you get older, you realize a lot more as you move on, right? And I don't think they're like just screwed in their situation. I do think that right now it's just difficult, and getting through this is going to take a little bit longer. Is about it. I think it's a perspective change that needs to happen, not so much an issue with like the world around us.
So, do you think this applies to foreign cultures, or is this just American culture? Do you just feel this way about American culture?
I don't know, to be honest with you.
Yeah, me neither.
I have spent very little time abroad.
Oh, no, I mean, I've never crossed the pond.
Yep.
So I wouldn't know as far as are other countries having this shame. I'm sure, right?
Yeah.
I think it's because it's a technology issue mostly. It's just they're all experiencing the same external factors that our kids are.
Yeah. Well, and Haley brings up a good point here where she says these are like one of the first big like helicopter parent generations. Which I don't know is necessarily true, but I understand the idea behind it.
That's actually a good point. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I don't know. One thing I see in this generation coming into the workforce is a lot of their decision-making skills is like lacking. And I think it's out of fear, right? They're scared to mess up. And I don't know how you were raised, but I was raised, it's okay to mess up, right? If you screw up, fix it. Don't linger on a problem. Right. And if you're scared of failure because you don't know the consequences, it can be super scary.
I think you just hit on it there. I don't think it's a fear of failure. I think it's just they've never failed because they've never had to fail, right? I think it goes back to what Haley was saying with helicopter parents and participation trophies. Yeah. For real. And I mean, you get into that situation where moms and dads or their kids. I'm raising 2 kids, so it's. I mean, it's hard to fight. I mean, it is. The helicopter parent thing is kind of hard to fight, but you got to let your. Yeah, I think millennials were the last generation of kids to, hey, get your ass outside and play and don't come back for 8 hours.
And I would say even toward the end of the millennial generation, it was not the same as the 80s. I think I think there was.
I was in the very beginning, so I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm right there in that cusp, right? So that's
And
I very much had that childhood.
yeah.
Like no seatbelts. I remember my friends personally didn't smoke, but like smoking in a car with the windows up. Now look, that stuff is bad. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm not saying that made me a better person because my friends' parents smoked with the windows rolled up.
Yeah.
That's just the kind of crap that happened, right?
Mm-hmm.
No car seats and that's what this is the thing that gets me on social media is you start saying these posts of I never wore a helmet as a kid wearing a bike and
Yeah.
I'm just fine. And it's like, okay, yeah.
It's like you're not, but okay. That's,
Yeah,
yeah,
I mean,
it's like,
that is not what made you tough, right? Just
Mm-hmm.
because you grew up in a generation that didn't wear a bike helmet. I mean, there is something to be said. Gen Z is really good. Look, human beings are really good at adapting to their environment.
they are. Yes.
And Gen Z is adapted to their environment. And we adapted to our environment, and it's just different. We're more social than Gen Z.
We
We
are.
know how to interact. Just like Kayla was saying, they don't know how to handle conflict at all. They're terrible. Now, you give them a keyboard and a screen, and there's some
Yeah.
freaking massive keyboard warriors.
Yeah.
But the only way they either know is to like shut down or scream at somebody.
Yeah.
That is the only way.